You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. All right, folks, let's go to what's happening here in Capitol Hill today. The Trump lawyers stopped or finished their opening testimony, laying out the case, of course, on why senators should acquit Donald Trump. The Associated Press, though, reported literally just 2 minutes ago that Senator Mitch McConnell, according to sources, has admitted he does not have the Republican votes needed to block witnesses from testifying. This, of course, comes on the heels of the New York Times reporting about the book from John Bolton, where he wrote that Donald Trump indeed was using his power to try to get Ukraine to investigate the Bidens and withheld the resources that were approved by Congress. In addition to that, he also says he told Attorney General William Barr last year that he believed that Trump was using his office to help autocrats in other countries. So the question now is, when you look at these various Republicans, Jason, they are not too particularly pleased because, one, they were highly critical of Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi for delaying sending over the articles of impeachment. That now seems to be a stroke of genius because if she did not hold that back, the Senate, by this point, would have easily found Donald Trump, would have easily acquitted Donald Trump. You would have not heard of Lev Parnas, would not know about this here. Now they are forced to a reckoning as to whether or not they're going to call the former National Security Advisor for Donald Trump, John Bolton, to testify before the Senate. Trust me, the White House is not particularly happy right now.
Absolutely. And you know, I think it was all not just Nancy Pelosi and her holding the articles. And, you know, of course, I have my own conspiracy theory that I believe she was in touch with Lev Parnas' attorneys before she actually turned those articles over. She was biding them time so that they could actually produce the documentation, which is more important, certainly, than Lev Parnas' word. But I think, in terms of the not having the vote, John Bolton was, an important piece to this. And, hopefully if they can't get John Bolton, at least they will be able to get his book and subpoena the publisher to get the actual manuscript and see what it is that he wrote, which is, just as important as necessarily hearing from him. I honestly would have called the Republicans bluff the entire time and would have said, sure, we'll give you Hunter Biden. We'll give you Joe Biden if you give us the witnesses that we want. Because, number one, we know he was going to claim executive privilege. That was all a front. There was no way, even if you gave them Hunter Biden, they were not going to allow Mick Mulvaney and Blair and Duffy and Bolton and many others.
But Jason, that's why you don't play the game of saying we'll say Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, because the reality is Hunter Biden and Joe Biden have absolutely nothing to do with Donald Trump asking Ukraine first of all, to investigate them and him withholding the money. And so going down that road plays right in the Republicans' hands. That they would love nothing more to have the leading, based upon the polls, Democratic nominee to be testifying in the impeachment trial. That's nothing to do with it. And so,
but my disagreement is that would never happen. I think you're calling a bluff.
What? No, you're not calling a bluff. What you're doing is here's the deal. You play that game, and then the Republicans, well, fine, let's do this person and that person. No. You force them to stick to what's at hand, what's the deal. Now that this memoir comes out, now that there's this transcript, now they have to contend with not whether you call Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. They got to first deal with, do you call John Bolton? And if John Bolton does indeed come testify, what will he say that will force Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State, will then force Mick Mulvaney? Yes. And so if you play their game, they would love to have the tit for tat game. Now it's the whole emphasis on Bolton and whether or not they're going to totally ignore his book, which will be out in 6 weeks. And now you got Lindsey Graham saying, oh, let's go to a skiff to read his book. Why in the hell do you need to go to a place to read classified material when it's a book that is being printed as we speak?
Yeah. So, no, we agree that Hunter Biden is a distraction. There's no question about that he is not a fact or material witness in this case. All I'm saying is that I don't believe that they would have allowed Bolton to testify. That was all a front. You know what I mean? I think he would have claimed executive privilege on all of the people I just named, and there's no way that he would have given you Duffy and Blair either. So, particularly with the high-level people like Pompeo and Bolton and Esper and all of those people, there's no way that they would have given them up because they knew that he had done something wrong. And there's no way that they would have let them testify. This is all just talk. So in my opinion, again, if you say, all right, we'll just call witnesses, you can call your witnesses, we'll call ours, I think they would have said, we'll hold the phone. You got to go to court, this, that, and the third, and they would have avoided it.
Well, I tell you what, Teresa, the issue you're now facing is this here. These Republicans are going to look real silly saying, nah, let's not call John Bolton when the book is coming out. Mm-hmm. And all Americans are going to be able to read whether the former national security advisor will be saying, Donald Trump did do this.
Yeah. And you know what? We have to remember that John Bolton isn't, just some appointee from yesterday's administration. He's been around for decades. He has been decorated. And they loved him up until 48 hours ago. Exactly.
Now he's a Democrat. That's laughable.
And so when we see, the type of frame that's happening right now with John Bolton, it makes you really want to look at your Republican elected officials, because if we stand for patriotism and conservatism and for our country, then whatever our former national security advisor has to say, then I think the American people would like to know what he has to say, because in 6 weeks, the book will be out. And then for me, I think my question is, once the book is out, or, because it'll probably, once it's out to the public in 6 weeks, we'll probably obviously get something earlier than that. So it may be probably less than a month where we'll start to hear leaks and everything else coming down the pike. So I think every, person that's living in a state where there's a Republican senator, they have to, like right now, reach out and, stress the need and the importance of having John Bolton as a witness.
I find it hilarious, Melik, that all of a sudden John Bolton is a Democrat. And then you got the folks who are now threatening him. You got Tammy Bruce, who's on Fox News, basically saying, "Don't you dare be a snitch." And you got people now they're railing on him. One of the Trump lawyers said, "An unverified source." I mean, it's laughable that all of a sudden now he has a scarlet letter on him because he's coming out making these statements.
Yeah, well, we really shouldn't be that surprised that that's a response from a number of people in the party. I think that it doesn't matter which president it is. When you have a national security advisor come out and essentially divulge information about conversations with the president of the United States, I think that in itself, as we see, that's already a huge story. But you have someone like John Bolton, who many people, not just inside the administration, but many people considered a hawk and did not much care for John Bolton. Now, the only thing that I have to say about that, I'm one of those who said that John Bolton should testify. Sure, bring him on in there. And it seems as if that McConnell may not, though those four people that everyone was looking at as far as who may end up voting for witnesses, seems like he can't meet that threshold. But one of the things that concerns me about it is that this is information John Bolton has known. So this is information that John Bolton had through the House hearings, and it's the information that he has now.
It's also
Now,
information that the White House has had since December 30th.
No. It's not the White House. It's actually because I followed that on the news today. So that information, the manuscript itself, was actually given over to the National Security Council.
Where are they housed?
And the follow-up to that,
where are they housed?
they very well may be housed in the White House. I'm not sure.
No, it's the National Security Council for whom?
For the White House?
Right. So when I say,
well, I don't know where they're housed.
No. When I say, how long has the White House known? The NSC is a part of the White House.
But I just want to draw a distinction based on the reporting today that the White House, the actual Oval Office, Trump, Mulvaney, and all of those, that information was not, the manuscript was not shared to them. Now, we can say, well, we don't believe that it is, but according to everything that I've heard today.
Who reported that?
Well, I saw that on Fox News today. I saw that on a segment on CNN today. I didn't watch MSNBC.
That Trump, Mulvaney, and all of them didn't know about the manuscript.
No, that the information was given to the National Security Council and that the White House was not given copies of that. Now, that may be false reporting, but again, that's the reporting that's actually out there.
Right. That's what they were told by the White House.
Well, we have to go with what we've heard.
But see, we also are used to this being the most lyingest White House we've seen in modern history. So anything that comes out of their mouth, I don't automatically believe.
That's fine. We can choose not to believe it. But
I'm just stating what's fact.
And that's fine. But based on the reporting, the White House, the Oval Office, Trump and his advisors did not have copies. And the reason that was shared with the National Security Council is because of security, because of their...
It's just like when you work at the CIA. Right. There's a process when you write a book, you send it through the process so they can vet to ensure no classified materials are actually placed in the book.
Right.
Now, Bolton wrote the book because what he knows wasn't classified material. Now, if you say, well, that's covered under executive privilege, that's a whole different conversation.
Right.
But that's not actually classified material, just like, Kelly, when Bob Gates wrote his book. And he talked about conversations with President Barack Obama. Those were not classified conversations. So Trump can exert executive privilege, but also, to be perfectly honest, executive privilege doesn't apply to a book.
Can I just say this very quickly? I wish that John Bolton had agreed to testify during the House hearing. I mean, I understand now this has kind of helped this book, but John Bolton should have been sitting in that seat. He shouldn't have had to wait for a subpoena. If he wanted to, I mean, he's coming out with the information in the book, so why not sit yourself right there in front of the House without them having to subpoena you?
Because you can write it in a book, Kelly, but when you're under oath, it's a different deal. And I'm going to tell you something right now. I said this on the ABC this week on Sunday. That's why these are fake-ass patriots. They're not real, because if you want to talk about doing what's right for the country, doing what's right for justice, then you don't need a subpoena to testify. That's what he said. Oh, if the court mandates that I testify, I will. That's what John Bolton says. No. Yeah. Why don't your ass voluntarily say, call me and I'll be there.
Right. And my thing is, the only reason I see him even doing that is because he's protecting somebody, and that somebody is not the United States. He's protecting himself, he's protecting 45, but he's not doing anything in the best interest of us, the citizens of the United States. Going back to Jason's point about him thinking about this bluff working or not, I like you, Roland, I definitely disagreed with that, not because of necessarily executive privilege per se, but I feel like the Republicans would have called the bluff and said, okay, we want the Bidens, and all of a sudden, when the Democrats are supposed to get their witnesses, all of a sudden they're going to hide behind executive privilege. And the way that this trial is working out, because the Democrats are going first in terms of opening statements, and if we have a real trial, witnesses going first or whatever, the Democrats' witnesses would be going first because they're on the offensive. They're not going to have any witnesses because all of a sudden they're hiding behind executive privilege, and the Bidens are going to be out there hung to dry for what? You understand what I'm saying? Like, they're not even part of the case. They're wholly irrelevant to everything. And, absent them, Trump still did what he did. And that's what's supposed to be on trial.
Well, it is laughable when you look at how the Trump lawyers, what they laid out. In fact, I can't even talk about just how shameful Alan Dershowitz was. Like, well, even if these things happen, even if it's just still not abuse of power. He basically suggested that nothing can qualify as an abuse of power.
Well, he contradicted all of his books in that statement. Like, and I have a couple of them.
And then he said, "Oh, back then I was wrong. Now I'm right."
You made millions of dollars off of being wrong. Like all these people in law school reading your books for a grade, and you wrong. Please.
Right.
But if you look at the Democrats, if you look at whether it's Nadler, Chuck Schumer, even when they were congressmen, the arguments, and it's something that they talked about because at the end of Cipollone's defense there today before he rested, he played a montage of Democrats essentially saying the same thing that Republicans are saying now.
But the context was wholly different.
But whether the context was different, what they said as far as the very high bar to high crimes and misdemeanors, meeting that high bar to high crimes and misdemeanors, is the very same thing that Republicans are saying now.
What they're saying now is not applicable to this case. What the Democrats were saying back then was the fact that Bill Clinton, in his egregious era, did whatever he did. That
did not rise to that. And that's the same thing that the Republicans
But the Republicans are saying that calling another country to basically have us, calling
another country to investigate your political rival when you could have called for your own Department of Justice to launch an investigation.
Because it was a valid source of inquiry.
But you didn't.
It was a valid source of inquiry.
What was?
Hunter Biden and the Burisma connection.
I'm sorry, hold up. What was valid?
Well, that's exactly what Voinovich said. That's exactly what Sondland said.
No. What was valid?
That there were questions about whether Hunter Biden, that it did seem like that there was some favoritism as far as him getting the contract with Burisma.
Okay, stop. Let's be real.
That's nothing illegal.
No, stop. Right, hold on, stop. Right. There's absolutely nothing illegal or immoral about a company choosing to hire anybody that they want. But the issue here, again, is not Hunter Biden. Right. The issue here is Donald Trump asking a foreign entity to investigate a political rival. They keep saying
happens to be a political rival. I think Donald Trump would have asked for that investigation.
No, he wouldn't.
Even if Joe Biden wasn't running.
Are you actually trying to say that Donald Trump would ask for that investigation regardless of anybody? He would have done that.
Well, if we go down the list of people, he's called for investigations of Eric Holder, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton.
Those are all political rivals.
But
those are all political rivals.
Right.
How is Eric Holder a political rival?
Because
Eric Holder was Attorney General.
How is Obama a political rival? Because he never ran against Obama.
Because Eric Holder was considering running for president of the United States. Second, first of all, we realize that Donald Trump sees President Barack Obama as a rival.
Well, that's really any Democrat now. So now you're saying that any Democrat.
No. Melik, look, that dog won't hunt.
But
the reality is here. Donald Trump sees Joe Biden as his biggest threat.
Maybe.
And ain't no maybe.
Maybe so.
Ain't no maybe.
Maybe so.
No, it's not maybe. It's a fact.
Well,
and so
we can't say what he sees.
Here's the deal.
We can give our analysis.
And what he's dealing with is he wanted Jason to do anything to take his leading rival out.
Who happens to be his leading rival.
That's the fact.
There's no question about that. I love Malik, but Melik, but there's no way that we can spin that because of the fact that number one, Joe Biden takes a large portion of his state, or challenges for them, and he certainly beats them in a lot of important states like Pennsylvania. So there is no question that he has seen Joe Biden as a rival. This is one of the reasons, even though I'm more of a Bernie guy than I am a Biden guy, this is one of the reasons why you hear the president even pushing the narrative that Bernie's being done wrong, that Bernie's being mistreated, because he would rather face Bernie Sanders and call him a socialist than to face Joe Biden, who can get more of the, working class, white, Midwestern, and Rust Belt vote. So there's no question that he sees Joe Biden as his primary political rival.
Well, bottom line is here. Republicans now got to make a serious decision as to whether or not they're going to call witnesses, and they are not too particularly happy that this book has been at the White House since December 30th, and they only found out because of a New York Times story on Sunday. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, join Reverend Dr. Jackie Hood Martin as she engages others to think like a leader. Are you looking to enhance your leadership or that of your team in 2020? You can join her newest online course and mastermind group, How Successful People Think. She'll be your guide as you learn timeless leadership principles to apply to daily living. The offer expires February 28th. To register, go to www.livetolead.com/Leesburg, www.livetolead.com/Leesburg. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it.